Okay, 7.3 is your last section in Chapter 7 on multiplication and division of polynomials. Your first four questions, I believe, are true-false. So the first one says negative 2x squared minus 2x divided by negative 2x is equal to x. The answer for this is false, and here's why. So for this one, we need to use distributive property, but this time instead of distributive property of multiplication, it's distributive property of division, because what this really says is this binomial divided by this monomial. These two questions are the same. And here, we need to divide each term in the binomial by negative 2x. So, if you are not overly strong, what you want to make sure you do is write it out as individual division questions. So a negative 2x squared divided by negative 2x, and a negative 2x divided by negative 2x. So here, negative 2 divided by negative 2 is going to be 1 over 1. X squared divided by x is going to be x over 1. 1 times x is x. 1 times 1 is 1. X over 1 is simply x, and that's what that becomes. So negative 2x squared divided by negative 2x is simply x. And negative 2x divided by negative 2x is 1 over 1. X over x is 1 over 1. 1 times 1 is 1 over 1, which is 1. And 1 over 1 is not 0. It's actually a positive 1. So therefore, the solution is not it's equal to x. It's equal to x plus 1. Question 2, the area of a rectangle is equal to this, divided by its length is equal to its width. Well, if I took the formula A equals L times W, and if I was to divide both sides by L, pretending L is a coefficient, multiplying by L and dividing by L are opposite operations, just like if I had 4 equals 2x, if I divided both sides by 2, it would cancel out the coefficient. So L divided by L cancels it out, leaving me with W. And over here I have area divided by length, which is exactly what this says. So therefore your answer is true. And that's the work I would expect you to show me. Then you're bang on. Maybe. Question 2, dividing negative x minus 1 by negative 1, what will it equal? So again, we're using distributive property of a binomial divided by a monomial. So negative x divided by negative 1. Again, you can think of this as being a negative 1 coefficient. That negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1 over 1. And x stays by itself, so it's a 1x over 1, or simply x. So the first term will become x. And a negative 1 divided by a negative 1 will cancel each other out, giving you 1 over 1, which is simply a plus 1. And therefore your answer is true. A negative x take away 1 divided by a negative 1 will equal a positive x plus 1. If the area of a rectangle is 2x squared plus 8x, and its width is 2, then its length is x squared plus 8x. The answer is false. Because if I multiply this by this, if I only used half a distributive property, I would end up with this answer. But because I also have to multiply 8x by 2, if that was the length and width, the area would actually be 2x squared plus 16x. Or conversely, if that was the area, what was it again? 8x. I would have to change this to 4x. Either way, you're proving that it's not true. It's false. What is the division equation modeled here? Area, 20x, divided by the side length is equal to positive 4x, because negative 20 divided by negative 5 is positive 4. And a positive 10 divided by negative 5 is a negative 2. So your answer would be 4x minus 2 is the division equation. This is the expression. This is the equation. solve using an area model. So the first one on the top there, based on our true false, is the area divided by its length is its width. So this we're going to make into its area. And this we're going to make into its width. And we're going to ask, what is the missing side length? So 2x times what is negative 2x squared would be a negative 2x. And 2x times what is 4x? The answer is 2x. Or sorry, 2, excuse me. Because 2x times 2 is 4x. So therefore, solve using an area model. We have that. So is equal to negative 2x. Since that's just a 2, we're going to call it a positive 2. And your answer is negative 2x plus 2. Next question, what is the division equation? So area divided by length equals width. The area is negative 4x squared plus 2x. We see it right here. This is going to be the length or the width, so divided by that length or width that we know. Since we don't have to solve it using distributive property, we can solve it with the area model. This here has to be a negative x because a positive x times a negative x gave me that negative x squared. This is also a negative x, and this has to be a positive 1. So the solution would be equals negative 2x plus 1. So with the next question, when it says solve using an algebra tile model, when you're given the area and you're given the length, what I advise you to do is start with your length first. Put that in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put 5 x's down here. And then I'm going to figure out how am I going to get in 10x squareds. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in here. So those are going to be my 10x squared. So they're going to be positive. So I'm going to put those in. And your negative 5x's are going to be here, and they're going to be negative. They're not going to be shaded in. So then I'm going to ask myself, x times what is x squared? It's going to be a positive x times a positive x. And an x times what is a negative x? It has to be a negative 1. So therefore, the missing side length is 2x minus 1. Does that make sense? Yeah. Solve using distributive property. Now we're getting into the easier stuff. Putez-vous ton arrows to remind yourself that it's 4x squared divided by 2, and it's 2 divided by 2. That'll be 2x squared plus 1 is your solution. Take your next one. Rewrite it as negative 4x squared divided by negative 2x. If you want, you could write it into parts. I should have done that with the last one, but I didn't. Here you're going to negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. X is left. That's going to be a negative 1. X and X. So therefore your solution is simply 2x minus 1. So a positive 2x divided by a negative 2x. 2x divided by 2x is 1. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. Question number 11. So we're going to rewrite this as 8 divided by negative 4. And negative 4x divided by negative 4. 8 divided by negative 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. A positive divided by negative is a negative. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is a positive 1 over 1. So we're going to have a plus 1x or just plus x. If you have the coefficient of 1, it's not wrong, but it drives me crazy, so don't write 1 coefficients. Solve using distributive property. The only difference here is it's a trinomial divided by a monomial. So we got 3 to do. So 10x cubed divided by 2x, negative 4x squared divided by 2x, 8x divided by 2x will be 5. Now remember, x cubed is x times x times x. Divided by 1x leaves you with an x squared. Negative 2 x, 4 positive. Your solution is 5x squared minus 2x plus 4. It's amazing how cocky some students can be when they have the answer key. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Next question. Negative 12xy divided by 2x and positive 4x divided by 2x. Here I advise you to realize that it's negative 12 and 2 makes negative 6. X and x makes 1 over 1 are gone. Y stays here because there's nothing to cancel it out with. 4 over 2 makes 2 over 1. X over x makes 1 over 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1, which means it's positive 2. Your solution is negative 6y plus 2. Oh, heavens to Betsy. X squared y z divided by 2x will be a coefficient of 1 exists here. And I'm going to put it there because it's going to end up being 1/2. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2, or if you wanted to, you can make it 0.5. But don't forget there's a coefficient of 1. This is important because most of you, if not all of you, didn't do this right. Okay? So consider that to be a 0.5 coefficient, or 1 divided by 2. X and x cancel each other out, leaving you with 1x here. The y and the z are still there. So the answer for the first distributive property is 0.5 xyz. Now, remember, this says half of xyz. And the best way to write half of xyz is this way. So you could write it this way if you wanted. You could write it this way, which is the best way. Or if you really wanted to, you could write it this as well. All three are correct. They all mean the same thing. For purposes of what we're going to do, we're going to keep it a decimal because I like the decimal better. It's pretty. Next one is to divide 2x by positive 2xy. Leaves you just y or plus y. And then negative 2x squared divided by 2x. Negative 1x. Negative 1x is simply negative x. And that's your solution. Your last distributor property question, negative 1.2x over 1.2. Negative 4.8x squared over 1.2. And 3.6 divided by 1.2. This is going to be a negative 1x or simply negative x. This will be a negative 4x squared. And this is going to be a plus 3. So your solution, without rearranging terms in descending degree of value, is negative x minus 4x squared plus 3. Or if you rearrange them, you could also say this is your solution. And your last question says a rectangle has an area of 12x squared minus 4x and a width of 4x. What is its perimeter? This is a two-step question. In order to get its perimeter, or the distance around, you need to know its length as well, or its width as well as its length. So take your area, divide it by the length or width you know, and use distributor property to calculate the missing length, which will be 3x minus 1. Now, once you know it's 3x minus 1, that's your first step. Then your next step is to add them all together. Now remember, perimeter of a rectangle is made up of 2 lengths and 2 widths. And on your test, I would like you to use that formula. I might even remind you. It's 2 lengths and 2 widths, which means it's 2 multiplied by 4x, and it's 2 multiplied by 3x minus 1. This allows you, because we use that formula, it allows you to use both Chapter 7 knowledge and Chapter 5 knowledge Two groups of 4x is 8x. This will become 6x minus 2. And your last step is to gather like terms because you do have like terms. 8x plus 6x is 14x. And therefore, your perimeter would be 14x minus 2.